some of the other heroes of this era, which you may or may not have heard about. Probably the most famous sports hero of this era was Jim Thorpe, who was an American Indian, who was an Olympic star, a gold medalist, a football and baseball star, and a track star. He was the first president of the NFL, and during this era, he actually had. There's a couple great movies about him. He had went through some really rough times, but he was really famous, not just because of his Olympics, but because he played professional football and baseball. Babe Ruth was the home run king, baseball star, and a pitcher for the New York Yankees during this time. And then probably the most famous woman athlete was a 19-year-old woman named Gertrude Ederle, who was the first woman to swim across the English Channel. Um, so there you go. In mass media, we had new modes of mass media: film, print, and broadcast. That's what the definition of mass media is. During this era, there was a new media called movies. We talked about the first movies to come around. We had 5,000 theaters at the beginning of the 1920s. By the end, movies were so popular that there were 22,000 theaters across the United States, and they were very nice affairs, like the Vogue in Broad Ripple, the Emerson Theater. Some old theaters in Indianapolis were originally movie theaters, or the Circle Theater downtown too. It became the fourth largest business in America, with Hollywood being the center of it all. During this era, the first talking picture, most movies were silent until this era. The first talking picture came out, which was a game changer for entertainment in this country. During this era, there were lots of newspapers and magazines. That was the main way you got news for sure, but also just information about entertainment and also about your city and your neighborhood around you. Circulation, or the number of people who were reading newspapers, doubled during this era, not just because newspapers were popular, but because more people were being taught to read. More people graduated from high school. The radio came out during this era and blew up. From 60,000 radios in American homes at the beginning of this era to 10 million at the end, and there were more than 500 radio stations across the country, and there were no limits on the power of those radio stations. In Indianapolis, you used to be able to pick up radio stations from New York and Texas, and they look cool too. And they had productions. Sometimes the news was just read to you, like in the lower part. Sometimes there were big band productions and everything else, like in the lower left. They had talk shows. They had mystery shows. They had soap operas. They had musical extravaganzas. Everything, all the entertainment you could have on TV, they were able to do on radio back then. And that is the end of that lecture.